True power doesn't lie in shouting for justice, but in transforming yourself into an untouchable entity. Welcome to Arya Vale's psychological analysis. Marcus's betrayal by his sister Caroline was not just an emotional shock, it was a cycle of selfishness hidden beneath a facade of family. But instead of sinking into the role of victim Arya under the leadership of a billionaire who uses fear as a tool like Luca, they transformed pain into a weapon. Today's video will dissect the art of power displays, where silence and indifference are the sharpest blades piercing the mind of a traitor.
Arya Vale, a ghost returning to the very society that had buried her. Just 3 weeks ago, a public execution of the heart left her socially annihilated when the man she loved didn't just leave, but paraded her own sister before their family as his prize. Her quiet ruin was the intended final act. But tonight, a new player entered the tragedy. Luca Devereux, a man whose name alone was a whisper of fear among the wealthy. This was no longer a collapse, it was the unfolding of a huntress. The chandelier hanging over the Whitmore Hotel ballroom weighed 4 tons and was worth more than a home, a fact Arya knew from a past life, a life where she stood silent beside Marcus, a pretty accessory listening to talk of portfolios and summer houses. That girl was a stranger to her now, a ghost. Tonight, the chandelier's light wasn't warm but splintered, a cold fire glinting off crystal and diamonds, exposing the brittle artifice of everyone here. She stood at the top of the stairs, a hand resting lightly on the chilling stillness of Luca Devereux's arm. She wasn't clinging. The posture was a lesson learned in iron control. Luca's voice was a low murmur, an order, not a comfort. Breathe. Your stillness is perfect. I've done nothing, Arya replied, her voice a thread. Exactly. That is the point. Below, the ballroom was a sea of black ties and jewels, a shimmering mass of consolidated power. Somewhere in that sea was Marcus, the architect of her ruin. She could feel his eyes on her, a primal instinct, like being watched in a dark and empty house. Her sister's words echoed, a venomous whisper. He was never really yours. A muscle tightened, a hard knot in her jaw. Control what your body is screaming, Luca advised, his own gaze sweeping the room like a hawk seeking its prey. They'll read that tension as weakness. I am not tense. I can feel the tremor in your bones. She forced a slow breath, the burn of his accuracy, a fresh sting of anger as her shoulders fell. He began to move, and she moved with him, a synchronized descent down the grand staircase. Every eye turned. Luca Devereux didn't just attend parties, he arrived. 6'3" of sharp lines and dark eyes, the suit on his back worth more than she was. A beautiful monster known for tearing empires down over the phone, and tonight, for reasons she could not yet fathom, he had chosen to arrive with her. As they reached the floor, a waiter appeared from nowhere with champagne. Luca took 2 glasses, handing one to her without breaking his stride. You don't have to drink it, he said. It's a prop, something to do with your hands. I know what champagne is for. Do you? She shot him a look, and the ghost of a smile touched his lips. There, he murmured, a slight nod of his head. 11 o'clock. Marcus sees you. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird in a cage. She waited a beat before turning. And he looks like a man who just watched his entire fortune burn to the ground. Now she looked. Marcus stood frozen by the bar, trapped in a conversation he no longer heard. His eyes were locked on her, a champagne flute hovering halfway to his lips, his face a canvas of pure shock, bleeding into the edges of raw panic. Acceptable, Arya murmured, tearing her gaze away before he could recover, her eyes scanning the room as if he were nothing more than part of the decor. How do you feel? Luca asked. like I'm going to be sick. That's normal, is it? You're trying to burn down a 3-year history in a single night. I'd be concerned if you weren't nauseous. They moved deeper into the glittering ballroom, parting the crowds like a ship through water. A woman in emerald green did a double take, her mouth instantly forming a frantic whisper to her husband. An older couple nodded politely to Luca, their eyes trying to discreetly devour Arya. She knew some of them, Marcus's friends, the ones who knew about her sister and had watched in silence. Smile, Arya, Luca commanded quietly. I am smiling. No, you're showing your teeth. There's a difference. Arya forced her face to obey, softening the hard lines, lifting the corners of her mouth into a mask of faint amusement. Better, Luca said. Now we make them come to us. He guided her toward a circle near the windows, a clique of men and women who wore their inherited wealth like a second skin. Arya didn't know their names, but she knew their kind. Marcus had once called them the core, the silent judges of this world. Luca, one of the men said, extending a hand. I didn't expect to see you. Robert. Luca's handshake was a single, decisive act. I rarely do charity, but I was convinced. Robert's eyes slid to Arya. I can see why. This is Arya Vale, Luca said, his tone flat, declarative. She is not my date. She is not my guest. Arya offered her hand. As Robert took it, she felt the slight pause, saw the flicker in his eyes as he tried to recalibrate her meaning. A pleasure, he lied. A blonde woman of about 50, her gaze sharp and dissecting, leaned in. Arya Vale. Why do I know that name? A cold knot formed in Arya's stomach. She's a photographer, Luca interjected, his voice impossibly smooth. Editorials mostly. You've likely seen her work in Vogue or Harper's. The lie was so complete, so audacious, it was stunning. Her freelance jobs were a world away from that. Yet the woman nodded slowly, as if a misplaced file had just clicked into place in her mind. Of course, that's it. The conversation swirled away to a merger, to a yacht in Monaco. Arya stood anchored in the storm, flute in hand, playing her part with perfectly timed nods and silent laughter, a beautiful, wordless enigma. Her silence, she realized, was making them hungry. After 10 minutes, Luca cut the conversation short. They retreated to the ballroom's edge, where the noise and the people thinned. You were good, he stated. I said almost nothing. Precisely, you let them write their own story about you. That's power. Arya sipped the champagne. It tasted expensive and empty. I don't understand how this works. It's repetition. That's not an answer. Luca stopped, turning to face her fully for the first time. His face was a mask, but his eyes were alive with an intensity that was far from pity. You want the clinical diagnosis? He asked. Yes. I stopped caring what they thought the day I realized they are all terrified of being forgotten. Once you know that, he continued, everything else is just a performance. Arya could only stare at him. That's a dark way to see the world. It's the honest way. Before she could reply, a voice from her past cut through the air. Arya. She turned. It was Marcus. He stood a few feet away, his hands shoved in his pockets in a pathetic attempt at nonchalance. He looked older up close, tired. His hair was cut shorter, his jaw tight, and there were fine lines around his eyes she'd never noticed before. Or maybe she had just refused to see them. Marcus, she said. The name was level. cool, the tone used for a stranger. He flickered a glance at Luca, then his eyes locked back on hers. Can we talk? We're talking now. Alone. Luca didn't move, a silent wall of tailored wool and unspoken threat. Arya's heart began to pound, but her face remained a placid lake. I don't think that's necessary. A muscle pulsed in Marcus's jaw. Arya, please. No. The word hung in the air between them, a sharp, perfect shard of glass. Marcus blinked. I just want to. I said no. He stared at her, and for a second his composure cracked, revealing a chasm of confusion and pain. He had been denied his final scene, his moment of absolution. She owed him nothing. Enjoy the party, Arya said and turned her back on him. Luca fell into step beside her as they walked toward the open terrace doors, never once looking back. Inside, Marcus stood paralyzed under the room's collective stare. Out on the balcony, the air felt crisp and clean. Arya rested on the stone rail, eyes shut, embracing the night's quiet solace. That, Luca declared, was a flawless maneuver. It felt hollow. Feeling was never the objective. That's the design. Her eyes opened to a sprawling carpet of city lights. He seemed so diminished. She gave a slow nod. Excellent, Luca replied. Let him absorb that reality. Silence settled between them. The gala's murmur persisted from within. Music, voices, the chime of flatware, while out here only they and the city's faint hum remained. Can I ask something? Arya began. You may. Why are you engineering all of this? Luca paused before answering. He moved to the railing beside her, his warmth radiating near her skin without contact. Because I know the feeling, he finally stated, of being misjudged, of being made small in another's eyes to satisfy their own ego. And what? And I object when such acts go unanswered. Arya studied him, her gaze sharpening. Under the perfect suit and rigid composure was something fractured, something wild. She could not name it, but she felt its vibration. Thank you, she offered. He shot her a look. Save your thanks. The night's performance is not over. Meaning what? He straightened from the rail, smoothing his cuffs. Your sister is here? Arya's breath caught in her throat. By the main doors, Luca noted, his voice devoid of emotion as he scanned the room. She has not seen you. Arya's knuckles whitened on the stone. I do not think I can do this. You cannot be sure. Luca turned, his eyes locking onto hers, intense and steady. I watched you face down men who live to find a flaw. I saw you cast out the very man who broke you. You can do this, Arya swallowed hard. What if I fall apart? Then you will fall apart later. Not now, not in front of her. A slow nod, then a firmer one. Understood, she said. Understood. Together they stepped back into the light. Caroline stood near the champagne fountain, smiling at a man in gray. She was radiant in a blush pink dress, her hair swept up, a string of pearls at her throat, a bride from another happier wedding. A vice gripped Arya's chest. Breathe, Luca murmured. She obeyed. They crossed the floor with measured purpose, giving Caroline every chance to notice. And she did. Her gaze swept the crowd, landed on Arya, and froze. For a single beat, the world stopped turning. Caroline's smile faltered, a tiny crack, but Arya saw it. Luca never broke his stride, and Arya became his perfect reflection. They glided within 10 feet of Caroline, close enough for her to see, close enough for her to register exactly who accompanied Arya. Caroline's mouth parted as if a word had caught in her throat. Arya offered a cool, distant ghost of a smile and kept walking. In their wake, Caroline was a statue, the glass in her hand trembling faintly. As they neared the dance floor, Luca inclined his head. "How are you feeling, Shaky? You do not look it." "Good." The orchestra swelled into a waltz. Couples drifted onto the floor, their movements practiced and precise. Luca extended a hand. "Dance with me." Arya hesitated. "I am not a dancer, nor am I. It is of no consequence." She took his hand. He led her onto the floor, his hand resting on her waist, the other holding hers with a surprising gentleness. They began to move, a slow, tentative rhythm, not quite in time with the music, but a rhythm all their own. "We're being watched," Arya whispered. "Let them watch." Her gaze flickered over his shoulder. Marcus was by the bar, jaw tight, eyes fixed on them. Caroline remained near the door, her date forgotten, her stare unblinking. And for the first time in 3 weeks, Arya didn't feel like a punchline. She felt like a verdict. "You're smiling," Luca observed. "Am I?" "Yes, a real one this time." Arya met his eyes. They were dark, unreadable, but held a trace of warmth that felt almost like kindness. "My thanks," she said again. "You keep saying that, because I mean it." The music ended. A polite ripple of applause swept the hall. Luca let her go slowly, and the space between them suddenly felt immense. "Come," he said. "We should get some air." They wove through the throng to a smaller balcony that overlooked the gardens. The music faded to a dull thrum. The night was cool and deep. Arya leaned on the railing, tilted her head back, and stared up. There were no stars, only the city's glow bleeding into the black. "I keep waiting for the impact," she said. "The impact of what?" "The fury, the agony. I thought seeing them would shatter me, but it did not. I feel blank." "Is that a bad thing?" She thought about it. "I am not sure." Luca was quiet for a long moment before speaking. "Perhaps the reckoning is over. Perhaps that is why you came here tonight. Or I am just numb. Or you are stronger than you know." Arya turned to look at him. "You know nothing about me. I know enough." "Like what?" He met her stare. "I know you could have stayed home tonight, could have let them have their victory, but you came. That is not numbness, Arya. That is an act of defiance." She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that she was crumbling inside, that this was all a lie, but the words would not form. Because he might be right. Perhaps this was her. The door behind them opened. A couple came out laughing, then saw them and retreated. Luca checked his watch. "We've been here 2 hours. That is enough." "Already?" "The point has been made. A longer performance offers nothing. It weakens the message." Arya nodded slowly. "Right, right." They walked back inside, making one final circuit of the room, just enough for their absence to be noted. Marcus watched them go. Caroline watched them go. Neither uttered a sound, and Arya never looked back. The car was waiting, a black sedan so polished it looked like liquid night. The driver opened her door without a word, and she slid in, Luca following. The door clicked shut. The world went silent. Arya exhaled a breath she hadn't known she was holding. "You did it," Luca said. "I did it." "And how do you feel now?" "Exhausted, electric, I am not sure. Hollow, maybe." "That is to be expected." The car pulled from the curb, gliding through the city. The gala's bright lights shrank behind them. Arya gazed out the window. watching the world blur past. What happens next? Now you go home, you rest. Tomorrow you wake up and you carry on. Is that it? That is it. She turned to face him. And you in all this? Me? What was your real reason for doing this? Luca was still for a moment, then leaned back, his eyes on something far away. I told you, I dislike seeing people underestimated. That is not the whole story. No, he admitted, it is not. Are you going to tell me the rest? He looked at her then, a clear, direct gaze, and for the first time, the mask cracked. Just a little, just enough. Someday, perhaps, he said, but not tonight. The car stopped in front of her building. The driver opened the door. Arya got out, then paused. Luca. Yes, I meant it. Thank you. He gave one sharp nod. Get some rest, Arya. The door shut. The car pulled away, and Arya stood on the pavement, alone in the enveloping night, but she was not broken anymore. She felt like someone who had just watched her own burial and walked away from the grave. Arya's apartment was the same, small, cluttered, smelling of old coffee and the lavender candle she'd left lit. She dropped her clutch on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and stood in the dark, listening to the hum of the fridge and the distant city pulse. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You were magnificent tonight. Sleep well. L. She stared at the screen, then set the phone face down. Her hands were shaking, not with fear, but with its release. Adrenaline, maybe, or the sharp clarity of relief. She did it. She had walked into that room, faced them both, and walked out whole. So why did she want to cry? Arya flipped on a light, poured a glass of water, drank half, and slammed it on the counter. The sound echoed in the quiet. She planted her palms on the cool granite, closed her eyes, and tried the breathing exercise Luca had shown her. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. It did not work. The tears came anyway, hot and sudden and fierce. They were not tears of sadness or of rage. They were the kind that break free when you have held yourself together for so long that your body simply refuses to do it anymore. She sank to the kitchen floor, her back against the cabinets, and let it happen. 10 minutes, maybe 15. She lost track of the time. When it was over, she felt scoured, empty, as if a poison had finally been purged. Arya wiped her face with the back of her hand, got up, and went to bed. Sleep came without dreams. Model. The morning broke too bright, too soon. Sunlight sliced through the blinds as Arya's phone hummed violently on the nightstand. She squinted, reaching for it. 12 missed calls, 23 texts, a cold clench in her gut. Most were from the periphery of her life. Old colleagues, a man from a gallery opening years ago. The words blurred into one. Saw you. You looked amazing. Who was he? Give us the details. But one message stood alone. Her mother's. We need to talk. Call me when you can. Arya let the phone fall, her gaze lost on the ceiling. Her mother. It was always inevitable. Caroline would have dialed her the second Arya left the gala, spinning a tale that painted herself as the martyr. She didn't want to deal with it, not now. But the phone sang again, her mother's name burning on the screen. With a resigned sigh, Arya sat up and answered. Mom. Arya? Her mother's voice was a tight wire, the sound she made when feigning calm over a deep well of disappointment. I've been trying you. I was asleep. At 11 in the morning. It was a late night. A breath of silence. Then, Carolyn called me. Of course she did. Arya's own voice was flat, devoid of surprise. What was her version? She said you were at the Whitmore Gala with Luca Devereaux. That's true. And you didn't think to mention that to me? Arya leaned back against the headboard. Why would I? Because it's... Her mother's exhale was sharp. Arya, do you have any idea who that man is? Yes. He's dangerous. He's a businessman. He is ruthless. People who cross him tend to disappear. A near laugh escaped Arya. And Marcus, what would you call what he did? Nothing. Mom, Arya said, her tone softening, I'm not having this conversation right now. Caroline is worried about you. Caroline can worry about herself. Arya, I have to run. She ended the call before a reply could come, killed the phone's power, and let it drop to the bed. A vice gripped her chest, not sadness, but something hotter. Perhaps it was anger, or maybe just the crushing weight of being expected to manage everyone's feelings while she was quietly bleeding out in a corner. She rose, showered, and made coffee. The coffee, black and bitter, seemed to alchemize her raw fury into a state of cold, clear thought. At her desk, the familiar objects of her work stirred nothing in her. She turned from her own projects to the glow of her inbox. An unusual email from an Elaine Cortez at Prestige, a senior editor at a top-tier magazine, bore a simple subject line: opportunity. An instinct she couldn't explain pushed past her doubt, forcing her to click it open. The message read, Ms. Vale, I've seen your portfolio and would like to propose a project. We have an editorial series that would benefit from your specific aesthetic. Please let me know when you are free to discuss. A strange disconnect made her read it 3 times. She had sent her work to this exact magazine before, only to receive a form rejection. Nothing in her career justified this sudden interest. The only logical leap led to one name. A quick search for Luca confirmed he was the CEO of Devereaux Holdings and sat on several boards. The search also showed his firm had acquired a majority stake in Prestige's parent company 6 months prior. He had manufactured this. The realization was a dizzying mix of gratitude and rage. Then, a text from Luca himself. Lunch? 1 p.m. Sending a car. Felt less like an invitation and more like a test of her compliance. Her first instinct was to refuse, to reject this intrusion, but she couldn't ignore the fact that she had willingly accepted his help before. Her reply was a simple yes. The car that arrived at 12:45 was discreet, not the same one as before. Its driver was silent, reinforcing the sterile, transactional feel of the arrangement. A 20-minute drive took them to a part of the city she didn't recognize, where the architecture felt like a relic. The car stopped before an unmarked building, identified only by its number. The driver opened her door, a silent signal that she had arrived. His instruction was stark. Mr. Devereaux is waiting. Inside the low-lit restaurant, Luca was seated in the back, a strategic position with a clear view of the door. She confronted him about the job immediately. He waved it off as a simple introduction, she countered, mentioning his ownership of the company. He offered a slight correction, a verbal feint. He had a stake in the parent company, a phrase chosen to dilute the perception of his control. His next question was almost clinical. Are you angry? She admitted she was just confused. He then recast the narrative, claiming he merely told the editor to look at her portfolio, insisting its quality alone had sealed the deal. When she pushed back, he confessed he had spent the morning studying her work. The validation was immediately tempered by a subtle cut. Your website, it's outdated, before adding that her talent was better than good, a calculated mix of praise and poison. Luca seized control of the moment, ordering for them both without consultation. He then cut off her questions about his motives by volunteering a story of his own past, a forced intimacy. He spoke of an engagement 5 years ago to a woman named Isabel. By his account, she had left him 2 weeks before the wedding for his business partner, a man he'd considered a brother for a decade. He waved away her condolences, pathologically twisting the betrayal into something that had strengthened him. It taught him, he said, that loyalty is just a performance until it's put under pressure. The ones who don't break, he finished, are priceless. "And you think I'm one of them?" she asked. "I think you have the potential to be," he answered, setting the terms of a new unspoken trial. The food came, but she found it difficult to eat. When she asked if he ever regretted being so vulnerable, he shook his head. He regretted trusting the wrong person, he clarified, not the act of trust itself. He claimed the experience changed him. He stopped waiting for people to see his worth and started forcing them to. He confirmed this new approach had worked well for him. He stated a preference for being feared rather than pitied, later changing the word to respected, adding that fear was just the quickest way to get there. She voiced her own fear of becoming hard, cold, untouchable. He offered a strange comfort, suggesting that the fact she could even question it meant she never would. People who truly turn to ice, he argued, don't feel the chill. Once the plates were gone, she admitted that her ex-fiancé, Marcus, had tried to make contact. Luca's face was a mask of indifference. He asked if she had responded. She hadn't. "Good," was all he said. He then reasoned that breaking a 3-year bond is a process, but replying to his message would be giving him space in her head that he no longer deserved. "What if he wants to apologize?" she wondered aloud. He swept the question aside, cutting to the heart of it. "Do you want him back?" "No." "Then what he wants is irrelevant." The memory of the discovery then surfaced, a classic symptom of trauma. She described a family dinner, the 4 of them at the table, herself, Marcus, and the other woman, Carolyn. Her mother had made a casual remark about grandchildren, and Marcus had frozen. And in that moment, she confessed, "I knew." The tell was his eyes. They hadn't darted to her, but to Caroline. When she confronted him later, there was no denial. He tried to explain it away as something that just happened, a helpless surrender, claiming he didn't mean to hurt her. Caroline had supposedly cried, echoing that they couldn't help how they felt. The affair had lasted 6 months. She had turned the blame inward, concluding, "I'm an idiot." Luca cut her off instantly, reframing it not as a failure of intellect but a miscalculation of trust. He leaned forward, his voice low but firm, capturing her gaze. "Listen to me." His final verdict was sharp, surgical. Their betrayal was a reflection of their own broken character, and it had nothing to do with her worth. You didn't see the signs because you're stupid. You didn't see them because you're not built that way, which is a good thing. A knot tightened in Arya's throat. It doesn't feel like a good thing. "It will," he promised. They left the restaurant an hour later. The car was waiting, but Luca waved it away. "Walk with me," he said. They moved without a destination, simply walking. The streets here were quiet, lined with old trees. The sharp click of Arya's heels was loud on the pavement. She had worn the wrong shoes. After a long silence, Luca spoke. "Tell me something." "Like what?" "Something true that you've never told anyone else." Arya considered it. "I'm afraid." "Of what?" "That one day I'll wake up and realize nothing has changed, that I haven't changed, and I'll be right back where I started." He stopped walking, turning to face her in the fading light. "That possibility is gone. You can't know that. I do, because the question itself proves the change. People who fall back don't have the clarity to see it coming. They just drift. But you are actively aware. That is the difference." Arya tried to let his reasoning sink in, but belief was just another name for hope, a prelude to familiar heartache. They began walking again. The sun dipped lower, pulling long, skeletal shadows over the pavement. A distant dog barked, a car horn blared. "Can I ask something?" Arya ventured. "Continue. What is in this for you in helping me?" Luca hesitated, his voice becoming quieter. "I get to witness someone finding their real self, not the one that was forced on them. An event like that is rare, and it demands observation." Arya had no words for this, and so she offered silence. They walked until dusk settled, and Luca called for the car. "I'll see you soon," he said as she slid inside. "When?" "When the time is right." The car pulled away, and she watched his form shrink in the glass until a corner took him. That night, she listened to the voicemail from Marcus. It was a forbidden act she told herself was meaningless, but curiosity was a stronger force. His voice was rough, uncertain, a ghost of his old confident tone. "Arya, it's me. I don't know if you'll get this, but I had to try. I saw you last night, and I need you to know I'm so sorry. I know saying it doesn't fix anything, but it's the truth. I was a coward and I hurt you, and you never deserved that. You deserved and deserve better." A breath. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to say that I know what I lost, and His voice broke. "I hope you're okay. I really do." The message cut off. Arya deleted it, then blocked his number without a second thought. She then opened her email and typed a response to Elaine Cortez. "Ms. Cortez, I would be very interested in discussing the collaboration. My schedule is flexible for a call this week. Thank you for your interest. Sincerely, Arya Vale." She hit send before doubt could poison the action. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. A message from Luca. "I'm proud of you." She stared at the screen, then typed back. "How did you know?" "Because I know you." That's a flawed premise. You don't, not really. But my understanding is improving. Arya set the phone down, her eyes tracing the blank ceiling. She couldn't name what was happening. Was this healing or just a more elegant form of distraction? Was Luca a guide to her recovery, or was she being carefully remade into someone new? Still, for the first time in weeks, the feeling of drowning had receded, and that felt like a victory. The call with Elaine Cortez came 2 days later. Arya sat at her desk, notebook open, trying to sound professional through the phone. It rang twice before Elaine picked up. "Arya, thank you for making time for me, of course. Thank you for reaching out." Elaine's voice was sharp and efficient, with no room for wasted words. "I'll be brief. We're running a 12-page feature on women succeeding in unconventional careers. I need a photographer who can capture vulnerability without it looking like weakness. Your work shows you have that precise skill." Arya's fingers tightened around her pen. "I appreciate you saying that. The assignment is in 3 weeks in New York. We cover travel and accommodations. You will have full creative control over the shots. I get final editorial say. The standard rate for the series is $15,000. Is this agreeable?" Arya's mind stuttered at the number. 15,000. The sum was more than she had ever been paid for a single job. "Yes," she managed, her voice impossibly steady. "That is agreeable. Wonderful." I'll have contracts sent over before the end of the day. Welcome aboard." The line went dead. Arya put the phone on the desk, looking at her own hands. They were trembling again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from something that felt dangerously like hope. She sent Luca a text. "I got the job." His reply came back in an instant. "I know. Elaine called me after." "Why? I asked her to. I had to be certain she wouldn't waste your time." Arya felt a strange mix of gratitude and anger rise in her chest and let them both exist. "You have to stop doing that." "Doing what?" "Managing my life." The subject, Luca, uses a familiar coercive strategy. He presents control as an opportunity. His words create a potent illusion of choice, a classic maneuver. He insists what the patient, Arya, does next is her decision. Her simple "thank you" reveals a growing reliance on him, a dependency built on gratitude. He brushes off her thanks, subtly erasing the debt she feels. 3 dots flicker, a calculated pause before his next play. "Dinner tonight?" Arya's wavering shows her internal conflict. She's stepping into a space that is not quite friendship, not yet romance. She reportedly took 2 hours to choose her clothes, a clear sign of her distress over what part she was expected to play. Her final choice of black pants and a silk top reveals a wish for neutrality, an unconscious guard against being misread. It was an armor of ambiguity. Luca's arrival at exactly 7 o'clock was a quiet display of precision and power. He waited in the car, forcing her to come to his territory. The patient, Arya, slid into the back seat next to him. His compliment, "You look nice," was another dose of calculated positive reinforcement. Her response, "You say that every time." It showed she saw the pattern, but still she craved the approval. The 30-minute drive to a sterile, manicured suburb was meant to isolate her, a well-known method for amplifying an operator's influence. The streets were broad, lined with old trees and houses with deep porches. The car stopped in front of a small bistro nestled between a bookstore and a flower shop. Luca opened her door himself, dismissing the driver. "Let's go." Inside, the air was warm, the lighting dim. Exposed brick walls and mismatched furniture were arranged with care. The place was nearly empty. A woman in her 60s greeted Luca by name, leading them wordlessly to a secluded corner booth. "Do you come here often?" Arya asked once they were settled. "I used to, when I needed a quiet place to think. And now? Now it's where I bring people I no longer have to pretend with." Arya didn't know how to interpret that, so she hid behind the menu. They ordered. Wine was brought for her, whiskey for him. The food came on small plates, artfully arranged, a meal meant for talking over, not for filling a stomach. "Tell me about New York," Luca began. "What about it?" "Are you afraid?" "I'm terrified." "Of what?" Arya put down her fork. "Because this job could make or break my career. If I fail, it isn't just a missed chance. It's proof I was never good enough for it in the first place." "That's a distorted way of thinking." "Is it? Everyone will just say I only got it because of you." "Let them think that. Your work will be the only answer you need." "And what if my work isn't good enough?" Luca leaned back, his eyes assessing her. "You're focusing your fear on the wrong thing." "What should I be afraid of?" "Nothing. You should focus only on doing the work. Everything else is just noise." "That's easy for you to say." "You think any of this has been easy for me?" Arya blinked. "Hasn't it?" "No, I spent the last 10 years building a reputation, an entity that people respect because they fear it. That isn't the same as being good. It's being good at making others hesitate. You, however, are actually good at what you do. Maybe. But I wasn't always. I made huge mistakes. I lost money, I lost people, and I lost years trying to prove I belonged in rooms I was never invited into. And where are you now? I own those rooms now, but the feeling of being an outsider never leaves. I've just stopped caring about it. Arya let that sink in. What made you stop caring? Luca swirled the amber liquid in his glass, staring into it as if it held secrets. I stopped asking for permission. From investors, from board members, from men who thought they knew better because they were older. I started to trust my own instincts, even when everyone said I was wrong. Did it work? There's most of the time. And when it didn't, I learned more from my failures than others did from their safe successes. Their main courses arrived. They ate slowly, the conversation drifting away from careers and into safer, more neutral territory. For the first time in an age, a wave of calm washed over Arya. May I venture something personal? She asked. That is entirely contingent on the query. Isabel, she said, what became of things after she left? Luca's expression didn't shudder, but instead sharpened into a state of alert appraisal. What is it you wish to know? Did you ever speak again? Once. A year on, she called out of the blue, claiming a need to apologize. And you? I allowed her the stage for her words. Then I disconnected. Was that truly the end of it? It was. She sought closure. I was under no mandate to grant it. The phantom of Marcus's empty voicemail echoed in Arya's mind. Do you regret it? Not indulging her full performance. No. Her call was never about penitence. It was a bid for absolution, a release from the weight of her own actions that he would never sanction. I would not offer her that peace, he said, a harsh verdict. Perhaps, but a just one. Their dinner drew to a close. A waiter, unbidden, delivered coffee as the dishes were cleared away. Arya wrapped her fingers around the porcelain, drawing its warmth into her palms. I still think of that night, she admitted. The gala, the way you commanded that room was absolute. I want to feel that. You already hold that power? No, I was merely playing a part. You were not. Arya, every soul in that venue was performing a fiction. My skill is simply more practiced than most. That is a truth I find hard to swallow. Then you must learn. Power is built on two pillars, the perception of others and the lies we tell ourselves. Arya's study of him deepened. The dim light seemed to erode his defenses, revealing something more vulnerable beneath. She saw the faint etchings of fatigue around his eyes, invisible until now. Does it not exhaust you? She asked. What? The performance, the endless strategy, the entire artifice. Luca fell into a long silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was stripped of its usual resonance. Always. Then why do you persist? To stop would be to concede that the last decade was for a hollow man I may not like, a reality I am not yet ready to face. His honesty struck her like a physical blow. She found herself without words. Luca drained the last of his whiskey. Let us leave this place. Outside, the air had turned crisp, carrying the sharp promise of autumn. The driver waited, but Luca waved him off yet again. Shall we walk? he suggested. Yes. They moved without a set course, past the dark windows of shuttered shops and under street lamps casting halos on the pavement. The soft click of Arya's heels punctuated the quiet. Luca's hands were buried in his pockets. "What is your endgame with your family?" he asked at last. "Explain. Your mother, your sister. You cannot maintain this indefinite avoidance." "Watch me, Arya," she sighed. "I am torn. One part of me wants to face them with fire and fury, and the other wants to simply cease to exist for them. Both are valid impulses, but only one is a tenable reality." "Which one?" "To vanish. My mother will side with Caroline, she always does, and Caroline will spin this into some grand melodrama where she is the tragic victim. And you will allow that version to stand." "What other option is there?" Luca stopped, turning to her fully. "You hold all the options: war, exile, or mercy. What is not an option is to let them write your story while you stand by as a silent character." "I don't know how to do that." "You do. You proved it at the gala. You walked into that room and seized control of the narrative by sheer force of presence." "That was a different stage." "How so?" "Because you were there." A subtle change softened Luca's features. "I am here now." A knot formed in Arya's throat. She looked away, blinking against a sudden burn. "I cannot build my strength on you." "And why is that?" "Because the moment you leave or tire of this, of me, I will shatter completely." "That will not happen." "You can't promise that." "I can. I do not make half investments. I do not place my wager on those I believe will fold." Arya met his stare. She saw something raw in his eyes, unguarded, a dangerous new element. It terrified her, not with a threat of harm, but of something genuine. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. Luca's answer was measured, each word carefully selected. "I want you to stop apologizing for the space you occupy, to stop second-guessing every move for fear of a misstep. I want you to trust yourself with the same conviction I have in you." "That is a monumental ask." "I am aware. I am not sure I am capable of it." "You are already doing it. You just haven't learned to recognize it in yourself yet." They began to walk again. The silence between them had transformed, now heavy with things neither was ready to voice. Arya's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed once more. "You should see to that," Luca said. She pulled it out. 2 texts from a number she didn't know. "It's Caroline. We need to talk. Please. I know you're angry, but we're still sisters." Arya stared at the words, her chest tightening. "What is it?" Luca asked. "Caroline." His jaw hardened. "What does she want?" "To talk. Will you give it to her?" Arya weighed the request against 3 years of secrets and allegiance. Caroline covering for her at a forbidden concert, the specific sound of her sister's laugh. Then she saw Caroline's face at dinner, devoid of remorse, filled with the quiet confidence of someone who never pays a price. "No," Arya said. "Are you sure?" "No. But it is the choice I am making." She blocked the number. Then she turned her phone off completely. Luca said nothing, but a slow, single nod communicated his perfect understanding. Their wandering path had brought them back to the restaurant where the car sat waiting like a patient shadow. "I should go home," Arya said. "Of course." They rode back in a shared quiet. Arya watched the city's texture change through the window, the suburban sprawl condensing into vertical towers. At her building, Luca walked her to the door. "Thank you," she said, "for tonight. For all of it. Stop thanking me. It's a reflex." A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "Get some rest. You still have work to do." "I know." She turned to go, but his voice stopped her. "Arya," she faced him. "You are stronger than you know." "Do not allow yourself to forget that," he added. Wordless, she could only nod before disappearing inside. Upstairs, the apartment felt vast and hollow. She turned on every light, made tea she had no intention of drinking, and sat on the sofa, staring into nothing. Her laptop was still on the coffee table. She pulled it over, opened her email, and began to write. "Mother, I know Caroline reached out, and I realize my reaction seems severe, but you must understand, this was not just a betrayal. It was a choice. For 6 months, they chose each other over me repeatedly. I'm not asking you to pick a side. I am telling you that I can no longer participate in this fiction. I need space from both of them. And maybe from you too. I don't know yet. I am not trying to hurt you. I am trying to survive. And I cannot do that while pretending everything is normal. I hope you can understand, but if you can't, I will have to live with that." "Arya." She read it through 3 times, then erased every word. Some battles did not need to be fought today. Perhaps never. Instead, she opened a new document and started mapping out the New York project. Lighting diagrams, shot compositions, questions for her subjects. She worked until 2 a.m., until the ache in her eyes and the strain in her back finally quieted the noise in her head enough to sleep. The next 3 weeks became a solid block of labor. Contracts, strategy sessions, and deep research became her world. Arya built a fortress out of work. Luca's texts arrived every few days, small, low-pressure signals. "How are preparations? Make sure you're eating. You are going to own this." Saria saved every one of them for reasons she refused to examine. 2 days before her flight to New York, her mother called. Arya paused, then accepted the call. "Mom." "Arya." Her mother's voice was thin, stretched with tension. "We need to talk. I don't think we do. Please, I just need you to hear me." Arya perched on the edge of her bed. "I'm listening." Her mother took a shaky breath. "Caroline told me everything. About Marcus, about how long it went on. I didn't know, Arya. I swear to you, I did not know." "Would it have changed anything if you had?" "Of course it would have." "Would it? For the last 3 weeks, all you've done is defend her." "I wasn't defending her. I was trying to stop this family from shattering." "It already shattered, Mom. You just didn't see it happen." There was a pause. "I am so sorry," her mother said at last. "I am sorry I didn't see, that I didn't ask the right questions. I am so sorry I made you feel like you had to carry this by yourself." Arya's throat tightened. "I don't know what you want me to say to that. I don't want anything. I just need you to know that I see it now." "What they did." "What I did by failing you." Okay. I've heard you. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I've heard you." Her mother was quiet for a long time. "Will you come for Thanksgiving?" "I don't know." "Will you think about it?" "Maybe." "That's all I can ask." The call ended. Arya sat frozen, staring at the wall, trying to name the emotion she was feeling. Her condition was static. No ground was gained. None was lost. This in itself was a form of progress. The day before she was to leave, a summons came from Luca's office. It was a place Arya had never seen. She had pictured a fortress of glass and steel, cold and designed to dominate. She was wrong. The building was old, its soul preserved through renovation with exposed brick walls and vast windows that bathed the interior in light. His office claimed the entire top floor. It was an expanse of quiet authority, filled with books and papers that spoke of real work. He was mid-conversation when she arrived. With a gesture, he indicated a chair, then brought his call to a close. "You're here," he said. "You asked me to be." "I did." From a drawer, he produced an envelope and slid it across the desk's surface. "New York," Arya murmured, opening the seal. Inside lay a check for $20,000. Her head snapped up. "What is the meaning of this?" "A retainer. Elaine already paid me for my work." "That was for your time," he corrected. "This is for the unforeseen, wardrobe, new equipment, anything to ensure there are no last-minute failures." "I can't accept this." "You can," he countered, "and you must." "Luca." "Arya, stop fighting me. Your camera is 5 years old. The lenses are scratched. Your skill has been a crutch, but you no longer need it." "Not like this." Her eyes were fixed on the sum. "I'll pay you back." "No, you will not." "I give you my word, I will." "Fine," he relented. "Repay me by creating work so profound that no one remembers I was ever involved." Arya folded the check with precision, sliding it back into its sleeve. "My gratitude." "Don't thank me." "I won't." A true smile broke through his composure, recasting his features. The guarded man vanished, replaced by someone younger. "You are a difficult woman," he observed. "And you are a difficult man." A silence settled between them, comfortable in a way it had never been before. "Are you ready?" Luca asked. "For the city?" "For all of it." Arya considered the preceding month. The gala, this commission, the painful shedding of an old skin for a new one she was only starting to recognize. "I don't know," she confessed, "but I am going anyway." "Good," he affirmed. "That's all that matters." When Arya moved to leave, Luca's voice caught her at the threshold. "Arya." She turned. "You are going to be extraordinary," he said. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, especially not yourself." She could only give a slight nod, her voice gone, and then she left. The next morning, she was on a plane to New York with new equipment, a binding contract, and a feeling lodged deep in her sternum she could not name. It felt like an overture, or maybe a finale. Either way, she was prepared. New York was a shock of cold water. The sound, the speed, the crushing tide of humanity on a relentless course. She'd been here before, but never with a purpose that felt this monumental. The hotel Elaine had booked in Midtown was anonymous and sleek, a sterile haven for travelers. Arya checked in, dragged her bags to the 11th floor, and stood paralyzed between two bone-white walls, ambushed by the reality of her choice. Her phone buzzed. "Luca." "Have you landed?" "Yes," she answered. "I'm in my room." "Nervous?" "I'm petrified." "Good," he replied. "It means you care." A smile almost touched her lips. Almost. The shoot began the next morning. 8 people in 3 days, all selected by Elaine. Arya passed the evening absorbed in her notes, running checks on gear and lighting arrays she already knew by heart. A dull ache reminded her she hadn't eaten. She ordered room service. A sad salad and a sandwich like pulped wood arrived. half of which she forced down. Sleep was a distant shore. Flat on her back, she stared at the ceiling as the city's soundtrack, sirens, horns, faint arguments, crept in from below. At 2 in the morning, she gave up, grabbed her camera, and walked out into the night. The city had a different pulse after dark, quieter but thrumming with a coiled energy. Arya wandered until her feet protested, shooting whatever caught her eye. A man huddled over a subway grate, a splash of paint on a shuttered gate. She captured the way street lamps bled across the damp pavement. It was nearly 4 when she returned. She showered, dressed, and sat by the window, watching the sky bleed from ink to slate to the palest of blues. Her phone rang at 6:30. "Elaine, are you awake?" "I am." "Good. The studio is downtown. Car arrives at 7:30. Your first subject is at 9. I'll be ready." "I know you will. See you there." The connection ended. Arya faced her reflection. She looked wired and worn, running on nerve and willpower alone. It would have to be enough. The studio was a cavernous Brooklyn warehouse with concrete floors and stark metal beams. Elaine waited by the entrance, a woman in her 50s with assessing eyes, clad entirely in black, as if for a burial or a gallery opening. Perhaps both. "Arya, a pleasure to finally meet," she stated. Her handshake was a brief, firm appraisal. "Luca thinks highly of you," Elaine noted. "He is biased." "Perhaps, but his instincts are rarely wrong." She gestured toward the back of the warehouse. "That's your space. I'll leave you to it. First up is Maya Chen, a tech CEO. Built her empire from scratch, just made the Forbes 30 under 30. She's brilliant but guarded. You'll have to earn it." "Understood." Elaine was gone. For the next hour, Arya sculpted the light, shifting stands and adjusting diffusers, chasing a perfect balance. Maya appeared at 9 exactly, a compact woman in her mid-20s, her suit costing more than all of Arya's gear combined. Her face was a polite, impenetrable mask, perfected over countless interviews where she had mastered revealing nothing at all. "Maya, thank you for coming." "Of course." Her handshake was brisk, efficient. "Where do you need me?" Arya motioned to a lone chair by the window, where soft light filtered through thin drapes. "Here, let's start easy and see where it goes." Maya sat, folding her legs and her hands, every movement precise, controlled. Arya raised the camera, taking a few frames. Maya's smile was immaculate, a practiced, hollow thing designed for a cover shoot. "May I ask you something?" Arya said, lowering the camera. The smile stayed put. "Go ahead." "Why did you agree to do this?" For a fraction of a second, the smile wavered. "I don't understand." "You don't need the exposure. You're on the Forbes list. You have investors lining up. So why sit for a story on redefining success?" There was a beat of silence before Maya laughed, a short, genuine bark of surprise. "You're direct." "I don't have time to be anything else." "Fair point." Maya shifted, uncrossing her legs, and the polished armor showed its first hairline crack. "My PR team thought it would be a good look. Show my human side. Or whatever. Is there one? A human side?" "I'm not so sure anymore. Most days it feels like I traded it for the company." Arya brought the camera to her eye again. "Tell me about that." Maya's face shifted, not closing off but becoming clouded with doubt. "I haven't had more than 4 hours of sleep in 3 years. I don't remember the last time I saw my parents. I have 200 people whose lives depend on my decisions. And most days I'm just guessing, praying I don't burn it all down. Click. The shutter closed on the moment her vulnerability surfaced. But you keep going, Arya stated. I keep going. Why? Because if I stop, I'm afraid I won't know who I am without it. Click! Another shot. Maya's eyes were sharp, yet lost. For an hour, Arya worked, carefully chipping away at the facade to find the woman underneath the CEO. When it was over, Maya's jacket was off, her hair was out of place, and her expression was unguarded, in a way it hadn't been when she walked in. Thank you, Maya said, getting ready to go. That was different. Different good? I think so. I'll let you know when I see the photos. The rest of the day followed the same rhythm. New face, same guarded heart. A single mother who built a charity from her kitchen table. A former pro athlete who lost it all and found a new life as a mentor. A writer whose first novel was published at 50 after decades of no. Each one began with a wall up. Each carried a weight unseen, and each eventually let Arya see it. The last person left after 8 o'clock. Arya's spine ached and her eyes burned, but she felt more alive than she had in months. Elaine materialized as Arya was disassembling her gear. How was it? Good, I think. I won't know for sure until I can see them on a proper screen. I need the raw files by morning, no retouching. Arya gave a short nod. Understood. You did well today. I wasn't sure you had it in you. Thanks for the vote of confidence. A ghost of a smile touched Elaine's lips. I don't have confidence, I have instincts. And my instincts tell me Luca was right about you. She turned and walked off before Arya could form a response. With the suitcase sealed, Arya hailed a cab back to the hotel's temporary sanctuary. Her screen glowed with 6 missed calls, a triptych from a ghost number, 2 from her mother, 1 from Luca. She dialed him back. Your first day? He asked. Terrifying, draining. I think it was good. That was precisely my hope. Elaine wants the raw files by morning. It's her way. Do not let it unnerve you. A little late for that. A laugh from Luca, startling in its warmth. You will survive, Arya. Trust your instincts. I am trying. I know, which is why I have no doubt. For the next 20 minutes, their voices bridged the distance, touching on the profound and the mundane and the paradox of New York, a city that could make you feel colossal and insignificant in the same breath. His voice lingered, a calming echo after she hung up. The next 2 days dissolved into a montage of faces and confessions, dialogues that began with pleasantries and ended in brutal honesty, capturing truth in the space between a mind and a mouth. On day 3, Elaine sat beside her, the laptop screen reflecting in her glasses as she scrutinized the raw files. Silence stretched, punctuated only by the click of the trackpad and the scribble of cryptic notes. Finally, her eyes met Arya's. These are good. Just good. They are very good. Beyond what I expected. The knot in Arya's chest loosened. Thank you. Do not thank me, Elaine said, shutting the laptop with a soft clap. The work was yours. I need you for the next series, a study in legacy, people who build things that last. A 3-month assignment starting in January. The words registered with a distinct lag in Arya's mind. She requested clarification. It was denied. Was she interested? Yes. Good. We will handle logistics upon your return. For now, celebrate. You have earned it. Arya left the studio unmoored, drifting through the city's currents with no destination. She let the concrete guide her until she reached Central Park. She claimed a bench, her eyes fixed on the lake's dark surface. A vibration. An encrypted message from a blocked number. Congratulations. Your performance was convincing. M's. Marcus. Arya stared at the words. A new number. He had slipped past her digital wall, just as she knew he would. It was his pattern. She rehearsed the sharp retorts, the firm lines she should draw. Instead, she chose silence, deleting the text and powering down the phone. That night, she sought solitude in a small Italian place, a cliché of checkered cloths and dripping candles. Pasta and wine were her company as she watched the city stream past the window. Mid-meal, the waiter brought another glass. Compliments of the gentleman at the bar. Arya turned. 3 seats down, Luca sat, still suited, like an image from a fashion editorial. Their eyes locked. He raised his glass slightly, a silent question. Arya gestured to the empty chair across from her. Luca paid his tab and crossed the room with a practiced casualness. What are you doing here? I had business in town, thought I would see how you were holding up. You flew to New York to check on me, among other things. He took the seat, waving for a menu he then ignored. How do you feel? Like I just survived something? You did. Elaine chose me for the next project. I am aware. She called me. Of course she did. A faint smile touched Luca's lips. She is impressed. Not an easy feat. Arya sipped the wine. It was better than what she'd ordered. Why are you really here? I told you. Meetings. Luca. He paused, then leaned forward, his focus sharpening, his gaze seeming to see the architecture of her thoughts. I wanted to be sure you were okay. And I did not want you to be alone after finishing something so immense. A tightness seized Arya's throat. You did not have to do that. I know. They ate, their conversation weaving through the project, the city, and the strange intimacy of capturing a stranger's soul on film. Luca spoke of a merger collapsing because 2 CEOs refused to be in the same room. Arya described Maya. That instant, the mask cracked to show the person beneath. That is your gift, Luca noted. Seeing what people try to hide, is that a compliment? It is an observation. But yes. After dinner, they walked, a directionless drift through streets that never slept. They ended up near Times Square, drowning in an assault of light and noise. I despise this part of the city, Luca said. Why? It is too much. Everyone is putting on a show. You are always performing. That is different. My stage is a boardroom, behind closed doors, not a street for people who will forget my face in 5 minutes. Arya watched him. Does anyone ever see the man behind the performance? Luca held her gaze. You are seeing him right now. The air between them changed, thick with an unspoken tension, a question neither of them knew how to ask. Come on. Luca finally broke the silence. Let us get out of here. They found a cab, the ride passing in a quiet that felt comfortable, not strained. At the hotel entrance, Luca walked her to the door. Thank you, Arya said, for being here, for all of it. Stop thanking me. It is a reflex, I told you. A smile creased his face. Then, unexpectedly, he pulled her into a hug. It was not hesitant or for show. It was solid, warm, grounding. Arya's body went rigid for a heartbeat before she melted into it. When he pulled back, his expression was unguarded. You did something incredible this week, he said. Do not let anyone take that from you. Not Elaine, not Marcus, not even yourself. I will not. Good. And he was gone. Arya watched him leave before ascending to her room. Sleep was a distant shore. She opened her laptop, the raw files loading one by one. She studied them, each face a story, every glance a confession. For the first time in a long time, Arya felt the solid weight of achievement. Her phone buzzed, resurrected by habit. Another message from Marcus. I know you do not want to hear from me, but I am sorry. For all of it, you deserved better. Arya stared at the screen for a long time. Then she typed, You are right. I did. I still do. Do not contact me again. She hit send, blocked him, and set the phone screen down. Morning came, and with it, a flight home. From the air, the city looked different, tamed, contained. She had left it feeling like prey escaping a trap. She returned now as a hunter who had claimed her prize. Luca's car was waiting, unasked for but not surprising. The driver took her home. The apartment was the same, but she saw it through new eyes. She had left as one person and returned as someone else. She unpacked, showered, and sat at her desk. A ping from the laptop. An email from Elaine. Arya, final selections attached. Credit will read your name on publication next month. Well done. We will talk about the legacy project after the holiday. Rest. You have earned it. Arya clicked open the attachment. 12 photographs stared back, each one sharper, more truthful than she remembered. She had done it. Her phone rang. It was Luca. See Elaine's email? He asked. Just now. And I have no words. You do not need any, just feel it. Arya shut her eyes, letting the wave wash over her. Pride, relief, the quiet hum of a gamble that had paid off. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For seeing something in me before I could. That is what I do, Luca said. You see the potential people cannot see in themselves, and I wait for them to catch up. They kept talking about the next steps, the holidays, the looming question of Thanksgiving with her mother. What do you think I should do? She asked. I think you should do what feels right, not what is easy, not what makes everyone else happy, what feels right to you. And if I do not know what that is, then you wait until you do. After the call, Arya sat with the photographs. Each face stared back, unflinching. She thought of Marcus, of Caroline, of her mother's hollow apology that still echoed. She thought of the woman she was at the gala a month ago. Broken, invisible, desperate for any scrap of approval. That woman was a stranger now. Arya opened a new email. Mom, about Thanksgiving. I cannot see Caroline. Maybe I never will, but I want to see you, just us. Let me know if that works for you, Arya. She hit send before doubt could poison her resolve. Then she opened her archives and began to work. It was progress. Not perfect, not painless, but it was a step forward. For now, it was enough. Her mother's response materialized 2 days later, clipped and cautious. I would like that. Just us. The Saturday before Thanksgiving, I can come to you. Arya scanned the message 3 times, hunting for traps, for the expected complication. Yet the words were starkly simple, an unconditional offer. She tapped out a reply. Okay, Saturday at 2. The days leading up to it seemed to stretch into an eternity. Arya buried herself in work, processing the New York photos, managing emails with Elaine, and curating her portfolio with images that charted her new professional self. Luca called twice. The talk was all surface level, touching on the weather, a documentary he had seen, and Arya's new habit of running at dawn to outpace her anxiety. "That's adaptive," he commented. "It's a sign of rebuilding." Or running away. Maybe both. That doesn't erase the benefit. On Friday evening, Arya attacked her apartment with a cleaning frenzy for the first time in weeks. The impulse wasn't practical, but a desperate need for manual labor. She polished already spotless surfaces and rearranged objects that sat perfectly fine. When she finished, it was well past midnight. Seated on the sofa, she stared into the sterile quiet, wondering what she was supposed to be feeling. Saturday arrived gray and frozen. Arya made coffee, burned the toast, threw it out, and started again. She changed her outfit 3 times, settling on jeans and a sweater that screamed casual, a stark contrast to the gravity of the day. Her mother was punctual, arriving exactly at 2 o'clock. Arya watched from the window as she got out of her car, clutching her purse like a shield. She looked smaller, older, and worn down in a way that had nothing to do with lack of sleep. Arya opened the door before she could knock. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart." A bead of silence hung between them, thick with shared uncertainty. Her mother then closed the distance with a brief, hesitant hug, as if asking for permission. Arya returned the embrace, a gesture that felt both instinctual and alien. "Come in," Arya said. Her mother stepped inside, her eyes sweeping the room with a strange intensity, though she had been there before. "It looks different. Better. I've moved a few things around. It works, the space feels more open." They took their places at the little kitchen table. Arya had made tea, a simple task to busy her hands, and now poured 2 cups that neither of them would likely touch. "I'm glad you came," Arya began. "I'm glad you asked." Her mother's hands wrapped around the mug, her gaze fixed inside it as if seeking answers in the depths. "I wasn't sure you would come." "Neither was I." A silence fell between them, not comfortable, not hostile, just present. "How have you been?" her mother finally asked. "Busy. I did a project in New York for a magazine." "I know. Your father found an article about it online. He showed it to me." Arya absorbed this. "My father?" "He's proud of you. He just doesn't have the words to show it, but the feeling is there." The information landed in a place she hadn't known was empty. Arya dropped her gaze to her tea. "I didn't know that. I should have told you sooner. We both should have." Her mother took a shaky breath. "Arya, I need to apologize properly, for real. Not like that time on the phone. Do you understand? I failed you. When you needed me to choose you, to fight for you, I chose to maintain a false peace instead. I told myself I was holding the family together, but the truth is I was just avoiding a fight that needed to happen, and you paid the price for it." Arya's throat tightened. Words felt impossible. "I have spent this last month trying to understand how I let that happen," her mother continued. "How I could watch my own daughter get hurt and do nothing. The truth is, I was scared. Scared of what it would mean to admit Caroline did something unforgivable. Scared of losing her and terrified of losing you. So I froze. And that's no excuse. It's not nearly enough." "No," Arya said, her voice a whisper. "It's not. I know that, and I don't expect you to forgive me. Not now, maybe not ever. But you have to know that I see it. What I did, what I didn't do, and I am so sorry." Arya swiped at her eyes with the back of her hand, surprised to find them wet. Why didn't you say any of this before? Because I didn't see it myself. I was too busy trying to fix everything, to force a reconciliation, to make things go back to how they were. But you can't go back, and you shouldn't. That moment showed me something I refused to see. What was that? That I taught Caroline to believe she was above consequences because I always erased them for her. That I taught you to believe your feelings didn't matter because I never made them a priority. That I created a family where the loudest, most destructive person got all the attention. Her mother's voice cracked. I built that, and I have to live with that. Arya stared at her mother. This was not the confrontation she had braced for. She had expected excuses, justifications, the old dance of blame and deflection. Not this raw, brutal ownership. What about Caroline? Arya asked. Her mother's face tightened almost imperceptibly. What about her? Have you talked to her about this? I have. She isn't handling it well. Good. A ghost of a smile touched her mother's lips. She keeps saying it wasn't her fault, that she didn't mean it, that she never wanted to hurt you. But she did it anyway. Yes, she did. Her mother set her mug on the table. I told her that I am done playing referee between you two, that if she wants to fix this, it's entirely on her, and that I would not pressure you to forgive her just to make family holidays less awkward. Arya felt something loosen in her chest, a knot of tension she'd carried for weeks. You said that? I did. She took it badly, but that's not your concern. It's hers. They sat with that knowledge for a moment. Outside, a car alarm blared. Someone shouted. The world went on, oblivious to the small, painful repair happening inside the apartment. I don't know if I can forgive her, Arya said. Or you. Not right now. I understand, but I want to try in time with you. I'm not so sure about her. Her mother nodded. That's fair. More than fair. I need you to understand something, though. What's that? This can't happen again. If Caroline does something, if anyone does, I need to know you will have my back. Not the family's, not the peace. Mine. You have my word. Words are easy, Mom. I know. So watch what I do, not what I say. Arya believed her, or she wanted to believe her. And maybe for now, that was enough. They talked for another hour, about small things, Arya's work, her mother's book club, how her dad finally fixed the porch light he'd promised to fix for 2 years. Mundane things, the kind of conversation they used to have before everything fell apart. When her mother left, they hugged again. Longer this time, less hesitant. I love you, her mother said. I love you too. Nothing was fixed, not completely, but it was something. After the door closed, Arya sat on the sofa and just let herself feel. The grief, the release, the strange, fragile hope that some things, even when shattered, could be put back together. Her phone buzzed. Luca. How did it go? Some better than I expected, harder than I wanted. That sounds about right. She apologized, a real one. Good. You deserved it. I don't know what happens next. You don't have to know yet. Arya smiled at the text. She typed back. Are you free tomorrow? Depends. What for? I want to take you somewhere. A short delay. Then. Okay, where? It's a surprise. I hate surprises. You'll like this one. The next day was Sunday. Arya picked Luca up at noon in the beat-up sedan she'd inherited from her dad and rarely drove. Luca got in the passenger seat, glanced at the old food wrappers on the floor and the cracked dashboard, and arched an eyebrow. This is your car? Don't judge. I'm not judging, I'm observing. Same thing. Not even close. They drove out of the city toward a countryside that felt a world away from the skyscrapers and traffic, though it was only 40 minutes out. There were rolling hills, tracts of farmland, and roads that bent for no reason other than the turn itself. Where are we going? Luca asked. You'll see. You know I despise being kept in the dark. I do. That's precisely why I'm doing it. A faint smile touched his lips. You're enjoying this? Far more than I should. They drove on until the navigation system announced their arrival. Arya pulled into a gravel patch beside an old barn, converted into some fusion of a gallery and a studio. A hand-painted sign read, Westfield Art Collective. Luca eyed it, then looked at Arya. What is this place? Somewhere I used to come. Before things got complicated. Before Marcus, before New York. Before I forgot why I ever picked up a camera. She got out of the car. Luca did the same. The inside of the barn smelled of timber, turpentine, and coffee. Its walls were covered in the works of local artists. Canvases, sculptures, photos in mismatched frames. A woman in her 60s sat at a desk in the corner, absorbed in a paperback with a broken spine. She glanced up, recognized Arya, and beamed. Well, look what the cat dragged in. You finally remembered where you came from. Hi, Ruth. Ruth stood, pulling Arya into a hug that carried the scent of lavender and old smoke. It's been too long, kid. I was starting to think you'd gone all Hollywood on us. Not quite. Just New York. Same difference. Ruth's gaze shifted to Luca, sizing him up with an unfiltered honesty only the very old and very young can get away with. And who's this? This is Luca, Ruth. She taught me everything I know about composition. And you've clearly forgotten most of it, Ruth countered, though she was smiling. She offered a hand. Luca took it. It's a pleasure to meet you, he said. The jury's still out on that. Ruth waved a hand at the barn's interior. Did Arya tell you anything about this place? Nothing specific. Figures. She never could take a compliment. Ruth looked back at Arya. Your work is still hanging in the back. I didn't have the heart to take it down. People still ask about it. Really? Really? Come on, I'll show your fancy friend what you made before you got too good for us. They followed Ruth toward the rear of the space. There, on a small section of wall, hung 6 of Arya's photographs from 3 years ago. Black and white. Portraits of people from the town. A farmer, a waitress, a mechanic. Faces you'd normally overlook, captured in moments of raw, unshielded humanity. Luca stood before them, silent, just looking. These are powerful, he said finally. They're old. They're still powerful, Ruth snorted. Told you so, but she wouldn't listen. Too busy chasing big city approval. I wasn't chasing anything, Arya mumbled. Of course you weren't. Ruth patted her arm. I'm just glad you're back, kid, even if it's only for a visit. She left them alone, returning to her desk and her novel. Arya and Luca stood before the photographs. The barn was quiet, but for the groan of old wood and the whisper of wind outside. Why did you bring me here? Luca finally asked. Because I needed you to see where I started. Before I was trying to build a persona, when I was just trying to see people. And you stopped doing that? I got sidetracked. by Marcus, by trying to fit into his world, by thinking I had to be someone else to matter. But you've come back. I'm trying to. Luca turned to her. Do you know the real reason I helped you? Why I showed up at that gala? Why I set up the meeting with Elaine? Why I still pick up the phone when you call? Arya shook her head. Because when I met you, you reminded me of something I'd lost. The most vital work, the kind with clinical truth, comes from subjects who haven't yet let their identity fracture, or from those trying to piece a broken self together. He nodded at the photos. This is your baseline. Not the social act, not the media fabrication. This, seeing the unseen people and making them psychologically unforgettable. A tightness formed in Arya's throat. I don't know if I can be that person and still succeed by the world's standards. That's a false premise. You have to stop treating them as mutually exclusive. They left an hour later. Ruth made Arya promise to return, to bring new work, and made Luca swear he wouldn't change her. The thought is absurd, Luca had said. Good, because I know where you live. That's factually incorrect. Give me 5 minutes and a phone book. The drive back was wrapped in a comfortable silence. The sun was setting, bleeding colors of orange, purple, and gold across the sky. Thank you, Luca said first. For what? For letting me see that. Most people hide their beginnings from me. They only show me who they want to become. Maybe they think you wouldn't care. Perhaps. Or maybe they're afraid I'll see a truth they want to keep buried. Are you seeing something now? Luca watched her. Yes, I'm seeing a subject who is stronger than she knows, and whose prognosis is excellent. Arya's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She couldn't find the emotional control for a spoken reply. They drove on in silence until they hit the city limits. Arya dropped him at his building, watched him go inside, and waited a beat before driving away. Thanksgiving came and went. Arya spent it with her father, just the two of them, eating Chinese takeout while a game neither of them cared about played on TV. He didn't ask about Caroline or Marcus, just said he was proud of her, and she could tell he meant it. It was enough. The following weeks dissolved into a routine of work, gym sessions, and tense calls with her mother that fixed nothing but stopped the bleeding. Texts from Luca were sporadic, but always seemed to arrive right when she needed them. 2 weeks before Christmas, a call came through from a number she didn't recognize. She almost ignored it, but some instinct made her answer. Hello? Arya, it's Carolyn. A cold shot of anxiety hit her. She should have hung up, blocked the number, deleted the memory, moved on. But she stayed on the line. What do you want? Caroline's voice was small, shaky. I had to hear your voice. I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you must hate me, but I had to try. Try what? To say I'm sorry. I know I said it before, but I don't think I understood what it meant, what I took from you. Arya squeezed her eyes shut. Caroline, Marcus, and I are no longer together. Silence. When? Arya asked. Last week. It just wasn't working. It was never going to work. We both knew that. We just refused to admit we had burned everything to the ground for nothing. Arya should have felt triumphant, vindicated, but all she felt was tired. I'm sorry to hear that, she said, and meant it. You don't have to be. You were right about all of it. I was selfish, I was cruel, and I told myself it was okay because I was in love. But it wasn't love. It was fear of being alone, and I took the easy way out, even though it destroyed you. Yes, that's about right. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not sure I can forgive myself, but I needed you to know that I see it now, what I did. and I hate myself for it. Arya sat on the edge of her mattress. What do you need from me, Carolyn? Nothing. I don't need anything. I just needed you to know. Noted. I know. Are you doing okay? My mom said you got a job in New York. I am. I'm doing okay. Good. That's good. You deserve it. They were quiet for a long moment. Then Caroline's voice broke. I miss you. A pang of grief tightened Arya's chest. I miss you too, but that doesn't change what happened. I know. Maybe someday, but not now. I understand. Caroline took a shaky breath. Thank you for not hanging up on me. Of course. The call ended. Arya sat there staring at nothing, feeling the weight of it all. It wasn't closure. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just an acknowledgement. And maybe, for now, that was all it could be. She texted Luca. Carolyn called. And I let her apologize. Then I told her I wasn't ready to forgive her. How do you feel? Sad, relieved, empty? I don't know. That's a normal response, is it? Yes. Healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes it's just disorienting. A small, involuntary smile touched Arya's lips. When did you get so wise? The wisdom was always there. You're just starting to hear it now. Christmas arrived without a sound. Arya spent it alone by choice, not circumstance. She was editing Ghosts, burning her eyes on the screen's glow as she worked the legacy project, lingering in that twilight space between broken and whole. Then, on New Year's Eve, the phone fractured the silence. It was Luca. What is the plan for tonight? Nothing. Why not? You should have a plan. I am content without one. Arya, Luca. A sigh drifted through the line. There's a gathering, small, just a few people. You should come. I don't do parties. It's not a party. It's dinner. With people who won't ask you to perform, who won't pry. Who are they? Friends? Real ones? The kind who've seen me at my absolute worst and didn't walk away. A weighted silence hung in the air before she spoke. Fine, she conceded. But if I feel cornered, I'm leaving. Deal. The restaurant was nestled in a part of the city she had never explored. When she entered, Luca was already there, at a table with 5 others, 2 men, 3 women, all near his age, their laughter echoing from a shared joke. Luca stood as he saw her approach. You made it. I said I would. He named the faces around the table, names that slipped through her memory, but faces that would stay. Open, unguarded, the kind that asked real questions and waited for the answers. They ate. They spoke of work, of the city, of that unique dread that comes with a New Year's unknown horizon. Not one of them asked Arya for her story. There were no invasive questions. They just made a space for her, as if she had always been there. As dessert arrived, one of the women, perhaps a Sarah or Sophie, leaned in close. Luca talks about you all the time. Arya's gaze flickered. He does? Constantly. About your art, your talent. He never does that, you know. Talk about people, so you must be someone special. Arya's eyes found Luca across the table, lost in a passionate debate, his hands shaping his words in the air. I don't know about special, Arya murmured. Well, he does, so just accept it. At midnight, they spilled into the street, someone producing a bottle of champagne. They counted down the final seconds, a strange mix of friends and strangers. And as the year turned, Arya felt a current shift. Not a healing, not an ending, just a change. Luca walked her to her car after. Thanks for coming, he said. Thank you for asking me. They liked you. How can you know that? Because Sarah asked if you were single, and when I said I didn't know, she told me I should find out. A flutter and arrhythmia in her chest. And are you finding out now? Luca held her gaze, a look that was both an inquiry and a confession. I don't know, Arya, he said, his voice low. Are you ready for me? She thought about it, about the months behind her, the woman she was, and the one she was becoming, and how for the first time in forever, she wasn't waiting for someone else to tell her she was worthy. Ask me that question in a few months, she said. A slow smile spread across Luca's face. Okay, I will. He pulled her into a hug. She held him back. When they broke apart, the air between them had changed. Nothing was solved, but something was finally seen. She drove home through empty streets, watching distant fireworks bleed across the sky. She thought of Marcus, of Carolyn, of her parents, of all the people who built the woman she had to tear down just to find herself. She thought of Luca, of Ruth, of the New York women who let her capture their deepest vulnerabilities. She thought that healing was never a straight line, that some mornings she still woke with a familiar rage, that she sometimes missed the girl who didn't know betrayal existed. But mostly, she thought that she had survived, that she had walked into a room of people who tried to erase her and had walked out taller, that she had taken the ugliest moment of her life and used it as fuel, refusing to let it burn her to the ground. 3 months on, Elaine called. The piece is running next week. I'm sending you an advance copy. Thank you, don't thank me. This is your work. You earned every bit of this. The magazine arrived 2 days later. Arya opened it slowly, carefully, as if a sudden move might make it all vanish. There, spread across 12 glossy pages, were the women she'd shot, their faces raw, real, and arresting. And there at the bottom of the first page, in small, perfect type, photography by Arya Vale. She stared until the letters blurred. Then she picked up the phone and dialed Luca. It's here. I know. I'm looking at it right now. And it's everything I knew it would be. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. It just would have taken you longer. A real laugh escaped her. You're infuriating. So you keep telling me. I'm serious, though. Thank you. You're welcome. Now stop thanking me and go celebrate, Arya. How? Any way you want. This moment is yours. Own it. Arya ended the call. She gazed at the magazine for a long time. Then she got in her car and drove to her mother's house. Her mother answered the door. Her eyes fell to the magazine in Arya's hands, and she broke into tears. I am so proud of you, she sobbed. I know, she said. They stood there for a beat before her mother pulled her inside. That night, Arya posted a single image online. Not for applause, she told herself, but as proof of a soul coming into alignment. The comments flowed in, among them one from the source of her original wound, a man named Marcus. His message, I'm sorry I never saw it, was a validation of the ghost she had been to him. Arya let her eyes rest on the words for a long time, then deleted his comment without a word. The act was a severing, a final cut from the identity of a victim. She had a new story now, that some losses are the brutal cost of finding oneself. 6 months later, Arya stood in a Brooklyn gallery, the site of her own exhibition. The collection, now titled The Legacy Project, had become a full solo show, her first. Her name was printed in bold letters on the wall. Luca stood next to her looking at a photo. You did it, he said. We did it, she replied. He corrected her instantly. No, you did it. I just held the door open, he said, cementing his role as the benevolent catalyst. Arya turned to face him, shifting the axis of their world. Are you ready for me to answer your question yet? The one that had hung in the air since New Year's. He became very still. Are you? She answered. I think so, then corrected herself. I'm ready to try if you are. The controlled smile Luca always wore dissolved into something that looked real, a calculated fissure in his armor designed to seal their connection. Yes, he breathed. I'm ready. He reached for her hand and she let him take it. In that moment, Arya felt an overwhelming sense of rightness, a feeling she knew was born of her own will, not his. The show was a success for 6 weeks, drawing praise and buyers. There was talk of a book. Carolyn, another ghost from her past, sent flowers, which Arya left on the counter and watched as they slowly withered. It was a quiet symbol of her new power, to hold both beauty and its decay with a steady, observant hand. Her mother and father came to the opening, standing together in shared, unspoken pride before her work. On the final night, she stood alone in the quiet gallery taking stock. She thought of the woman she used to be, a creature pathologically dependent on the perceptions of others, a person defined by an act of betrayal. That construct was gone, replaced by someone stronger, not perfect, but a woman who had learned that a catastrophe is not the end of the story. Instead, it was the start of a completely different one. Arya switched off the lights and walked out into the night, unafraid, for once, of what the darkness might hold. She had finally understood the deepest lesson of her ordeal. You don't heal from trauma by erasing it. You heal by becoming someone the trauma can no longer touch. Arya now considered herself invincible, not because she had hardened her heart, but because she knew her value was no longer up for negotiation. This singular shift, she understood, was everything.